Hello, we are Group 6 and I am Farhan. I will be covering the overview and objectives of this project. Did you know that most Malaysians risk running out of money just a few years into retirement? With prices rising every year and people living longer, relying on EPF savings alone is no longer enough. That's why retirement planning has become one of the most important financial goals for every young adult today. This case study focuses on Farah, a 30-year-old executive who plans to retire at the age of 60. This study highlights the amount of savings Farah will need, the impact of inflation, and the steps she must take to ensure her long-term financial stability. It serves as a practical example of why financial planning is necessary and how individuals can prepare for a secure and sustainable retirement. In Malaysia, the challenges are real. The cost of living continues to climb, like food, housing, medical bills, and daily expenses are all more expensive than before. At the same time, many EPF members do not have sufficient savings. In fact, more than half of Malaysians under 55 have less than 50,000 ringgit in their accounts, far below the 240,000 ringgit benchmark set for a comfortable retirement. For most, these savings may only last 3 to 5 years. And with life expectancy now reaching 75 to 80 years, Malaysians face a longer retirement period. Without proper planning, many will face risk financial hardship in the later years. And this is why retirement planning is not optional, but a necessity, as it ensures financial security and independence so we can sustain lifestyle during retirement. For instance, starting early allows us to build enough savings, grow investments, and secure a better quality of life after we stop working. Not only that, but with good planning, we don't have to worry about the needed and rising costs of healthcare, and indirectly reduces reliance on family or even the government. Ultimately, our minds will be at peace knowing that it will be enough to cover all the costs that needed to be covered. Our project aims to achieve three main objectives. First, we need to understand why retirement planning is important in Malaysian context. Second, we need to calculate how much someone actually needs to live comfortably after retirement, taking into account inflation and longer lifespans. And third, to explore the right tools and investment options that can help close the gap between current savings and future needs. Retirement planning is not just about money, but about preparing for a secure future. Start early, and your future self will thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am TENGKU DINA binti TENGKU ERIS MARTINO. I will explain a case study on retirement planning for Farah. Farah is 30 years old and currently works as an executive at a private company. She earns a net salary of 4,000 ringgit per month, and she already has 10,000 ringgit saved in Amanah Saham Bumi Putra or ASB. Her goal is to retire at the age of 60, and she assumes a life expectancy at 80 years. That means she has 30 years to save, and her retirement will last for 20 years. Now, let's look at the assumption. During retirement, Farah expects to live a moderate lifestyle, and she estimates she will need 2,500 ringgit per month to cover food, utilities, healthcare, and some leisure. We assume inflation at 3% per year, and we also assume that her investment can generate a return of 5% annually. Based on this, our main problem statement is how much does Farah need to save in order to fund her 20 years of retirement, adjusted for inflation, and what is the difference if she starts saving early compared to delaying her savings. Now, let us calculate how much Farah will actually need for her retirement. We start with her basic expenses. She estimates that during retirement, she will need 2,500 ringgit per month for food, utilities, healthcare, and some leisure. If we multiply 2,500 by 12 months, we get 30,000 per year. Over a retirement period of 20 years, that becomes 600,000. So, in today's value, 600,000 looks like enough for Farah to live on after she retires. But here is the problem. Prices do not stay the same forever. We must consider inflation, which is the increase in the cost of living over time. If we assume an average inflation rate of 3% per year, then in 30 years, the value of money will decrease significantly. To give a simple example, something that costs 100 ringgit today will cost around 240 ringgit in 30 years at 3% inflation. So, what looks like 600,000 today will actually feel more like 1 million ringgit by the time Farah reaches 60 years old. That is why, when we plan for retirement, we cannot just take today's prices. We have to project them forward. For Farah, her real target retirement fund is not 600,000 ringgit, but about 1 million at age 60. Next, let's calculate how much Farah needs to save each month in order to reach her retirement fund. First, let's imagine the worst case scenarios. She does not invest her savings at all. If she just keeps her money in a bank account with no interest, then to reach 600,000 ringgit in 30 years, she would need to save 1,667 ringgit every month. That is more than 40% of her monthly salary, which is very unrealistic and not practical. Now, if Farah invests her money in options that generate about 5% annual return, for example, in ASP, unit trust, or even a private retirement scheme, then the power of compounding works in her favor. With 30 years of compounding, she only needs to save around 700 ringgit per month to achieve the same 1 million ringgit target. This is much more reasonable, and it fits within 18% of her monthly salary. But here's where timing makes a big difference. If Farah delays and starts saving at age 40 instead of 30, she only has 20 years to save. Her monthly savings requirement increases to about 1,300 ringgit per month. That is almost 1/3 of her income. And if she delays even further, starting at age 45 with only 15 years left, she would need to save nearly 1,800 ringgit per month. At that point, it becomes very difficult to manage. So the lesson here is very clear. The earlier you start, the easier it is to build wealth, with more years to save and more years to compounding. Farah's monthly burden becomes much lighter. On the other hand, delaying means she has to sacrifice a much bigger portion of her income later, which could be very stressful. Therefore, for Farah, starting now at age 30 with 700 ringgit per month is the most realistic and suitable plan for her retirement.
Hi, my name is SALSABILA binti ANUAR. So today I'll be presenting about the graph which is yearly versus late savings. So here we can see the effect of starting yearly versus starting late when it comes to retirement planning. This graph compares to 3 different starting age, which is 30, 40 and 45. So if Farah begins saving at age 30, she only needs to set aside around 700 ringgit per month. This amount is quite reasonable compared to her 4,000 ringgit salary. But if she waits until 40, the required savings almost double to 1,300 ringgit per month. And if she delays even further, she started at 45, the monthly requirements goes above 2,000 ringgit. What this teach us is that every 10 years of delays make the burden much heavier. The earlier you start, the more manageable it is. This graph give a clear visual message in financial planning. Time is your biggest advantage. Next, let's look at the retirement planning process in the flow charts. This make the steps simple and easy to follow. The first step is to set a goals. For Farah, this means deciding at what age she wants to retire, what lifestyle she wants, and how much she needs per month. The second step is saving consistently. This is about making retirement saving a habit, like committing 700 ringgit per month every month without skipping. The third step is investing wisely. Instead of keeping money in the bank with very low returns, Farah should use tools like EPF, ASB, ERS, or even stock for long-term growth. The fourth step is to monitor progress. Retirement planning is not something you do once and forget. Farah needs to review her saving every few years to check if she's still on track. Finally, the last step is to retire securely. If all the previous steps are done properly, she can achieve financial independence and retire without depending on others. This flow chart is important because it breaks down a complicated topic into a clear, actionable steps. So, for my final part, I want to explain why visuals are very important in financial planning. So, number and formula are very useful, but they can be difficult to understand many people's. Visual like tables, graph, and flow charts can be simplified complex number. For example, instead of just hearing the figures 700 ringgit, 1,300 ringgit and 2,000 ringgit, The graph we saw earlier immediately show the difference between starting yearly versus starting leads. Visual also make it easier to compare different scenarios. In Farah's case, we can instantly see how delaying retirement saving increases the monthly burdens. Without visual, this would just be a list of numbers which is harder to digest. Finally, visual engage the audience. When you use charts and flow charts, people pay more attention and remember the key points better. That's why, in our projects, visual are not just decorations, but a tool to communicate financial planning more effectively. That's all from me. Thank you.
Employees Provide Fund, which is EPF, is Malaysia's national retirement savings scheme. Both employee and employer contribute a portion of monthly salary into the account. The money is invested by EPF in bonds, equities, real estate, or etc. accredited yearly. USB is a government-backed investment fund in Malaysia, primarily designed for Bumiputra investors. It offers stable, relatively low-risk return and widely used by people who prefer a more hand-off investment approach. It's managed by PNB, Pemodalan Nasional Berhad. It's only for Bumiputra and always RM1 per unit. Higher returns than fixed deposit, good for medium long-term savings, and it's easy withdrawal when cash is needed. And it's only restricted for Bumiputra. Return vary year to year, not for thrill seeker by the way. No high risk high return like crypto stocks. PRS is a voluntary savings and investment scheme in Malaysia that is designed to help people build extra money for retirement. It's managed by private fund providers, CMB Public, Kenanga, and overseen by the Securities Commission Malaysia. How it works: you contribute any amount and no minimum monthly requirement. Your money is invested in funds, conservative, balance or growth. It grows over time based on investment performance, and you can only fully withdraw at age of 55 like EPF. Stocks: you buy ownership in a single company, any company you want. Profit through dividends: the company will pay you part of earnings plus capital gain when the price goes up. Risky: if the company struggles, your stock's value drops eventually. There's also high potential return, but depends on how well that one company performs, and it actually requires research and monitoring. The next one, ETF, exchange trade fund. Like a basket of stocks, bonds you can buy in one go. To be honest, traded on stocks exchange, same as stocks. Tracks an index sector. Lower risk than single stocks because it's diversified. Good for long-term set and forget investing, sort of. Let's look at the importance of starting early versus starting late when it comes to saving for retirement. You start saving at age 30, you have 30 years until retirement. By setting aside just 700 ringgit per month, your total contribution will be 252,000 ringgit Malaysia. By the time you reach 60, your savings can grow to about 1 million ringgit Malaysia. That's only 17.5% of your 4,000 salary. Now, let's compare this with starting later at age 40. Since you only have 20 years left, you need to save probably around 1,300 per month. Almost double the earlier amount that adds up to a total of 312,000 ringgit Malaysia contributed. Yet, your future value at retirement is still about 1 million ringgit Malaysia. But you notice, this means you're using 32.5% of your salary, which is much heavier burden. Strategy for Farah: to achieve her retirement goal, Farah should continue contributing to EPF but not depend on it. Invest in ASB or unit trust for stable growth. Consider private retirement scheme, PRS, for long-term tax benefits. And also allocate 15 to 20% of salary, which is 600 to 800 ringgit Malaysia per month, into dividend investment.
Next, I will talk about reflections and lesson learned. Our group discovered through Farah retirement planning case study that early planning is crucial to future financial security. According to the prediction, Farah will only need 700 a month if she started saving at age 30. But if she waits until she is 40, the amount of money she will need to save nearly doubles to RM1,300. This demonstrates how crucial it is to get started early and benefit from compound interest. We also discovered that reaching retirement objective requires discipline. Regardless of lifestyle temptation, consistently setting aside 15 to 20% of income might mean the difference between financial stress and comfort in later life.
Knowing that depending only on EPF is insufficient was another crucial lesson. Diversified solutions including ASB, PRS, and unit trusts are necessary because to inflation, growing healthcare costs, and longer life expectancy. All things considered, our group developed a greater understanding of retirement planning as a lifetime endeavor rather than merely a financial exercise. Next, I will talk about my personal reflection. Personally, I discovered that retirement planning is something that should not be put off until middle age. The earlier I began, the simpler and less stressful it would be. Prior to this research, I thought retirement was a distant worry, but the case studies show me that every ringgit saved now can have a significant influence later on. Additionally, I realized that inflation devalues money, therefore it's crucial to make smart investment rather than merely putting money in a low interest account. Another lesson I learned was the importance of teamwork. Each group member brought distinct strengths such as competitions, tactics, or image, and we collaborate to construct a comprehensive and practical retirement plan. This teamwork demonstrates how financial planning can be handled from several angles and emphasizes the necessity of communication and teamwork. Above all, I have changed my perspective because of this case study. Retirement planning is now something I see as a personal obligation that calls for awareness, discipline, and constant adjustment. I realize that financial literacy is not merely theoretical, it is a practical instrument that I can use to ensure a safe and comfortable future for myself.
Hello everyone, so today I will be presenting the project timeline and group contributions. This part highlights how our group managed the entire project step by step and how each member contributes. So let's begin with the project timeline. So firstly, our project was carried out over a 6-week period. Week 1, we brainstormed and selected the topic, which is retirement planning, and decided on the scope of the case study. In week 2, we focus on research, which each member will collect the articles, statistics, and case studies related to the retirement planning in Malaysia, especially issues such as EPF, saving, and rising cost of living. Moving to week 3, we work on the case study calculation. We created a financial profile for Farah, who is 30 years old with a monthly salary of 4,000, and calculated her retirement saving needs. In week 4, we identify different strategies and financial tools such as EPF, ASB, PRS, and stocks, and compare yearly saving versus lead saving. In week 5, we focus on visual and design, including chart, graph, and slide using Canva. Finally, in week 6, we finalized the report and recorded our video presentation. So we move to the next part, which is students' contributions. Each member in our group had a specific responsibility to ensure a balanced workload and teamwork. Firstly, our member 1, which is FARKHAN, was responsible for the project overview and introduction, highlighting the importance of retirement planning. Member 2, which is TENGKU, focused on the case study and calculations, preparing Farah's profile and computing her retirement saving target. Next, member 3, which is MEGAT, worked on strategy and tools, analyzing different investment options and comparing saving early versus late. Next is Bella, our 4th member, handled a visual and media, designing graph and slide to present the information clearly. Next is Rose, our 5th member, reflected on lesson learned, emphasizing financial awareness, discipline, and the importance of starting retirement planning early. Finally, me, DINA, prepared the timeline, contribution, and future improvement section, ensuring that the project flow was documented and suggestions for better outcome were provided. So this clear division of roles allowed us to work efficiently and complete the project on time. Lastly, let's take a look at the future improvement. Although the project was completed successfully, there are several ways it can be improved in the future. Let's see what we can improve if the project were done again in the future. First, we can conduct the real interviews with individuals close to the retirement to add more practical, real-life insight into our case study. Second, we should use official calculator from EPF or PRS to make our financial projection more accurate. Third, It will be valuable to test multiple income scenarios, for example 2,000, 3,000 and 5,000, to show how different salary levels affect retirement outcomes. Fourth, we can conduct a study survey to measure the level of awareness and readiness for retirement planning among young adults. Finally, it is important to include inflation and rising living costs in our calculation so that the projections are more realistic and comprehensive. In conclusion, this summarizes how our group planned and executed the project within 6 weeks and how each member contribute to different sections and how we can improve the project in the future. This project not only enhance our knowledge of financial planning but also improve our teamwork and project management skills. Thank you.